Hello everyone, good afternoon. So I'm here today with the lovely Vikkie Richmond, who is the CEO and founder of Red and White Media Limited. And she's going to do a little introduction to herself. She's done some work for Synergy. She does our monthly newsletter for us and did an amazing press release for us that ended up in Southeast Magazine, didn't it, Vikkie?
I did, yeah. Southeast Business Magazine.
Yeah, so that's absolutely brilliant. So we were over the moon with that. So, Vicky, I'm going to hand over to you. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. As Linda says, I'm Vikkie Richmond, the CEO and founder of Red and White Media Limited. We provide strategic copywriting, communications, and marketing support for businesses across the UK. Our specialism is tone of voice and brand-led communications, both internal and external. And we work with small business owners, internal communications managers, marketing teams, entrepreneurs, and marketing agencies. And we do different types of work across those different types of clients. We also help businesses get seen, as Linda's mentioned, by highlighting their achievements and growth. And we assist with crisis management comms should things go wrong, as they sometimes do. So today we're going to spotlight trends in online content consumption. We're going to talk about the language of psychology and how you can use two marketing techniques to speak directly to your audience using storytelling in your copy. Why should you listen to me? Well, my background is actually in administration. I've worked in that field for most of my career. But I've done lots of other jobs as well, so I have some good life experience. In 2020, just before lockdown, I set up my own business as a VA, a virtual assistant, and I realised quite quickly that I wanted to concentrate on marketing. So I used to write blogs, case studies, web copy, social media, all of the lovely stuff that I'm still doing now. I closed that business in late 2024 so that I could focus solely on writing, and that's how Red and White Media was born. This year I've been lucky enough to win an award, as well as being named the highly commended runner-up in the Copywriter of the Year category in Digital Women Awards 2025. I also have a bit of an unusual background that helps me with this sort of work. For about 10 years I was a music reviewer, so I used to write live gigs and album reviews for my own website, other websites, and a print music magazine. So many of the skills that I picked up during that time, such as research, editing, proofreading, and writing concisely for tight word counts, now come in very handy when I'm writing for clients. So copywriting is not just slinging a few words onto a page and hoping they stick, and neither is storytelling. It's an art, it's a specialism that we copywriters train for, but the golden thread running through everything I do is storytelling. There's always a story in everything. So I have a few stats for you, some of which are fairly mind-boggling. So you hear that phrase, stop the scroll, all the time, and it's getting harder to get content seen. Now we're in 2025. There are literally millions of blog posts being published daily worldwide. The average web page visit is around 10 to 20 seconds long. So it's getting really hard for your ideal customers to cut through all of the noise of the day-to-day and to really see you and what you do. And people just have an average attention span these days, apparently, of just 8 seconds. So if you think about how much content there is, especially on LinkedIn, it's really difficult sometimes to know how you can stop your customers from bouncing from your content and your website and everything else to your competitors. Now, a lot of that starts with the strategy behind your marketing. So every organization, big or small, should have a business plan, which should also include a marketing plan. Now, if you haven't yet done the work for that, it's a really good idea to sit down and figure out who your ideal customers are, because you need to know this stuff. And we're not just talking about it's Fred blogs down the pub who needs a blog written, in my case. You need to know these people's age, their gender, their location, their interests, whether they're business owners, whether they have kids, what sort of music they like. You're basically building up a profile of your ideal customer, and it's good to have maybe 2 or 3 of these. We call them customer personas or customer avatars, so that you can determine with a little basic research where these people hang out online, so you know where to go to talk to them. For example, it's no good for you to put all of your eggs in a LinkedIn shaped basket if your tribe are hanging out over on Facebook. No good. So with the information that you have, as I say, you can create your customer avatars or personas. And once you have that information, you can then start to build that tailored content that tells your story and speaks to those people directly. So you can tell a story to everyone, but you're not talking to everyone. You need to be telling stories that your ideal customers want to hear. And on that note, I just want to make a quick point about virality. Virality? Going viral, basically. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. You do not need your social posts to go viral. And viral is subjective anyway. I mean, what constitutes that? It's great for visibility, and more of your ideal clients might see your content, but remember, you should always be tailoring that content to reach your ideal customer to get maximum return. Just wanted to make a point there. So it's, sorry, I've lost my slides. There's always a technical hitch, isn't there? Especially when it's me. Talking about return on investment. So obviously it's important to be visible, but you have to give value to your audience. For example, if you're spending 10 hours a week putting out Facebook and Instagram posts that don't really give any value to anyone, or you're not hitting the right people, that's 10 hours that you're wasting, basically, that you could have spent on something more fruitful for your business. People will see you, but they won't really see you, and they won't feel seen by you either. And that's important. And that's something I'll come back to a little bit later on, that your ideal customers need to feel seen by you. So that's why it's important to put the work in at the start on your strategy and planning. Although, to be clear, strategy and planning is not static. It changes over time as your business changes, and you need to update that regularly. You need to have a timeline to update that. But all of your content, your website, your social posts, your blogs, your newsletters, your sales emails, everything you write needs a strategy behind it. So if we think about storytelling in its broadest sense, your potential and future clients want to know who you are. They want to know your why, and they want to see that A, you know your stuff, and B, that they can trust you as a safe pair of hands with their money and their business. And a good story will build trust, hold their attention, and drive them to take action. So you don't have to give chapter and verse and tell the world your private and innermost thoughts, but a little vulnerability and personality here and there will go a long way. And your competitors know that as well. So, you know, it's just something that you have to bear in mind. I actually attended a really good Small Business Britain webinar this morning with a lady called Kat Williams, which was all about confidence. And she basically said that showing up and not being perfect is enough. And that resonated with me, because so many people just don't bother with content because they feel it won't be good enough, or that nobody wants to hear what they have to say, right? So people do want to hear your story, and that's a really important thing to remember when you feel a bit icky about putting content out. You know, you need to just get over that. But there is a caveat. You can have the best blogs, the best social media, the best web copy in the world, but you need to take it offline as well. So Linda will obviously back me up on this. You need to get out into the real world, make those connections, go to networking events, get your brand you out there in front of people. But everything you post online should be an extension of the personality that people will find when they meet you in real life. People go on about authenticity all the time. That word is overused and overdone to death, but it's very true. If what you're posting online is wildly different to how you are in real life when you network and when you see other people, that doesn't inspire trust, and people will likely end up dealing with your competitors. So it's very important to just be yourself all the way through, all across the board. And the world's a small place, right? So people who you meet in real life will read your content online, and if it doesn't align, then they'll see through that. So Before we get on to some marketing / copywriting frameworks that can help anyone, not just copywriters, to write better, more targeted content, I want to talk about the language of psychology. So certain words and phrases are recognized to be more helpful than others in terms of shaping your offer and tapping into people's emotions. So, for example, using the word free is great because everybody loves something for nothing. And a note on that, I'm all for providing value, but at the end of the day, if you are a business owner, you still have a business and you still need to make money. Now, some people give everything away for free, some don't. It's your choice and it's your business. You do as you feel is best. So back to the words such as awesome, revolutionary, unique, they're all kind of a bit done to death. So maybe use alternative words if you can. And it's also worth mentioning that, as you probably know, scarcity sells and exclusivity even more so. Phrases such as don't miss out or get yours while stocks last usually do really well, as do limiting offers to a certain number. So, for example, if you're giving away or if you're doing a course, if you say, oh, we've got 5 spots left, people will be like, oh, I need to jump on that because there's only 5 people doing it, so I need to be on it. You're creating that fear of missing out whilst you're creating your stories. So basically people want to be seen to be, jumping on trends and getting the latest fashion or fad. So if you look at the way designers will sell out a new handbag without it even really going live, or new designer makeup lines, for example, Victoria Beckham, every time she releases a new makeup item, it goes out of stock really quickly because people want it and it's scarce, and that's the way to get that interest. So I just want you don't have to say anything or ask any questions or put anything in any chat or anything. I don't know if we have a chat, Linda, I'm not sure. But what I want you to do is think about something, and this can be after this is finished, you don't have to do it right now. But I want you to think about something you've read or seen in the last week that has stopped your scroll. So I really want you to think about how it made you feel. I think it's good to pay closer attention to what you're reading and seeing every day on the TV, in the papers, online. If a piece of copy or an advert has you nodding your head or feeling as though it's talking directly to you, analyze why that is. What techniques are they using? Why did it make you feel something? Because that feeling, if it's making you feel something, that's what you want your ideal target customers and audience to have. That's what you want to happen to them when they're reading your content. So you want them to feel something, because that usually is the first step towards them purchasing a service or product from you. And it's also a really good idea to ask your current clients and customers why they chose you over a competitor. Some people are a bit about that. Personally, I'll ask my customers anything. I don't really mind. I want to know where they found me. I want to know why they chose me over another copywriter, all that stuff, because that's a really good, reliable source of data. So don't miss out on that important stuff. So as a quick recap, we've spoken about why having a strategy behind your content is important. We've touched briefly on customer avatars and personas and how that can inform, or how that should inform, your content marketing and storytelling. We've seen eye-watering statistics about the amount of content on the internet, and we've thought about how you might stop the scroll with visibility versus return on investment. And we've also looked at psychology and some words to use and avoid. So does anybody have any questions so far? And if anybody has any questions, feel free to just speak up as we go. Don't wait until the end. I'm happy.
Yeah, I've just checked the chat and there's no questions in there at the moment,
Okay,
Vikkie.
cool. Thanks, Linda. So what we'll do now is have a look at a couple of frameworks that you can use every day in your writing to turn emotion into action and decision making. So don't forget, whatever sector you're in, you started your business to make money. Okay, well, most of us start our business to make money. I appreciate some of us might not, that might not be the number one goal. You want people to feel something while they're reading your copy, but you also need them to take action and buy from you. And that's the end goal. These frameworks aren't exclusive to copywriters. They're well used. They're well known by marketers. but not necessarily by your average business owner. So you've got a head start by finding out about them today. And it's also important to remember that these are not hacks or shortcuts. If you don't have the budget or the appetite to work with a copywriter or a marketing team for your web copy, for your blogs, for anything, these are proven techniques that can help you as a business owner or a senior person in your business to help your copy perform better and ultimately to guide your customers to take action to purchase your products or services. And just as an aside, the number of touch points or encounters it takes for a new customer to decide to buy from you has gone up exponentially. So a few years ago, I say a few, maybe a bit further than that, it used to be, I think, around sort of between 9 and 14 touch points. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, jump in, but this is what my research and my knowledge tells me. Now, these days in 2025, it's an average of 28 to 29 touch points. That's a lot of effort to get a customer. But people are literally being bombarded with marketing every minute of every day. So as soon as they wake up in the morning, they turn on the radio or the TV, pick up their phone and do some doom scrolling. They're just bombarded. So it's taking more time for decision makers in companies to make those decisions on who to buy from. So if we go back to the frameworks, the first one we're going to look at is AIDA. Which is attention, interest, desire, and action. Now, this is a marketing model that guides communication with customers at each stage of their buying journey. As I've just said, there are quite a lot of stages these days to that buying journey. And the other framework I'm going to talk about is PAS, which is problem, agitate, solution. So that one is used more to remind your audience of the problem or issue that they're facing, and it kind of makes them revisit the pain of that issue before you present a solution to them. So let's have a look in more detail at the first one. So AIDA really is marketing psychology at its finest. This structure can pretty much be followed for most types of copy. Just as a strategy should sit behind everything that you put out there, you always need to consider the structure of your copy as well. So whatever content you're working with, you have to stop the scroll and get your buyer's attention. And this is usually done with a hook to draw people in. For example, you didn't start your business to spend your nights Googling how to write a welcome sequence. So most people these days have newsletters or lead magnets that they need to create a welcome sequence for on a program such as MailChimp or any of the other myriad email packages there are out there. If you've ever tried to set up one of those, or if this is your ideal customer, they're going to go, oh, how painful is it to try and set up a welcome sequence? You are drawing them in and showing them that, this is for them, basically. The next stage of that is interest. So you are building on the emotion of that hook, and you're showing the audience empathy by illustrating that you get their problem. So you only have a short time, 8 seconds, to draw your reader in because of that attention span in 2025. So for example, most business owners will hit the same wall in year 2, growth without clarity. Now, that actually came from a post that stopped my scroll because I'm in my second year of business and I've started to grow, but until the last 3 or 4 months, I didn't really have any clarity about where I wanted to go. So immediately I was like, whoa, that's me. I'm in my second year of business. That's speaking directly to me. So that really stopped me, and I carried on reading. I didn't buy from them, but it was something that really interested me, and it made me stop that doom scrolling for just a few minutes. So the next stage is desire. And this is where you paint a picture of what the transformation could look like for them. So you're playing on the wrong choice of words really, but you're playing on the need that your ideal customer has to solve a problem by giving them the power to envisage the results that you can help them achieve. Okay, so for example, imagine how it would feel to wake up to a fully booked diary without chasing icky sales DMs. Nobody really likes sales. Well, okay, most people don't really like sales. They're reluctant to slide into people's DMs and start selling. We don't really like doing it unless we're really a strong salesperson, but sometimes that's the only way to get business. But if you are somebody that doesn't like doing that, then that's going to make them think, oh yeah, I'd really like that. I'd really like to just wake up and find loads of appointments in without having to do that horrible kind of salesy stage. And then finally, you should use strong verbs, doing words with a clear call to action, highlighting the steps that you want somebody to take. So for example, this is one of mine: book your copy clarity check-in now. You can't say that when you've had a few drinks. But that has more weight than, say, learn more or call us now. It's very focused. It tells them what you want them to do, and by the time they've read your post, they're like, yes, I'm going to book that call right now because I really want to do this. So a strong call to action is a really good thing to end on. You don't always have to end with a CTA, that's call to action. But especially in social media terms, you should probably be at least 60-40 with your posts, even if it's just asking them to DM you to get a conversation started. You're making them move from, yes, this really speaks to me, to, oh wow, this person really gets me, sees me, feels me. So you've told that story, and then you're drawing them in, and they're sending you a message to get that conversation started. So that's pretty much AIDA in a nutshell. The second framework is PAS, Problem, Agitate, Solution. This is a really common marketing tool. And to some people have actually said to me, well, I'm lying to my audience, I'm tricking them. No, you're not. You're really not. If you use this type of structure for your posts, for your web copy, whatever you want to write, you are tapping into recognized techniques that appeal to a range of human emotions. And that's just marketing, basically. At the end of the day, we all want somebody to take an action from our content, and this is going to help you. So the first stage of this is obviously the problem. You're spelling out your ideal customer's problem. You're setting the scene, again, using hooks and emotions to reel the reader in. Again, this is one that attracted me back in my previous business. You're posting 3 times a week, but you're still not getting traction. Immediately, you're going to think, oh, that's me. I put out loads of posts. I don't get any likes. I don't get any impressions. Nobody's commenting. Nobody's engaging. So immediately you are thinking, I feel seen. That's me. Next, you need to agitate your audience, which sounds a bit horrible, I know. Using textures and emotions to really tap into their feelings. So you're using emotive feeling words. For example, you're exhausted by screaming into the void and not even getting a whisper back. That's one of mine. It's quite emotive because you kind of visualize somebody screaming into the void and not getting a whisper back. So, it's basically just, yeah, it works. And then finally, you swoop in for the kill with a timely solution, something that will provide relief for their issue, answer to their prayers by giving them an instant problem solver. So, for example, just 1 hour with a strategic storyteller can provide you with 2 months of content. Now, if you're somebody that struggles with writing content, you're going to sit there and go, wow, I'm posting 3 times a week. I'm not getting anything back. It's a waste of my time. And yes, I am exhausted by having to come up with all these posts. And how amazing would that be to have 2 months of content with just 1 hour from a meeting? Of course they're going to call you. Of course they're going to pick up the phone or send you an email. You're not lying to them. You're not tricking them. You're just basically using strategic tools that will help you tap into their psychology and their feelings. And often you'll see people nodding their head as they read along to a post, or if they're watching a TV advert, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's me, because you're talking directly to them. And that's the golden thread of storytelling in a marketing context. People feel seen by you. I can see that Linda said we've got a question. So
Yes.
if
So
you
the big brands, in the first bit you were saying that we being shouted at by so many people. There's so many things going out there now with social media, but in the past, with TV adverts when I was a girl, there was only a few businesses that had access to it. The rest of the businesses out there had to put a small, like, little advert in a
yeah,
newspaper, or and hope that someone would see it. And the newspaper people used to say, we have this many thousand readers. Well, yeah, maybe they do, but how many are going to see your little square advert?
exactly.
Everything seemed to be a chance. Whereas I think that companies, small companies are now given the same opportunities as big companies to get
Yeah.
their business out there. That's the beauty of what you're showing here. They've got an opportunity to be there out there with the big boys if they want to be,
That's exactly it. Not everybody does want to be. I get that. But this is not just for big. This is for all sizes of businesses.
Yeah.
If you are having trouble communicating with your audience and you're not getting much back, then you kind of need to tweak your messaging and figure out why you're not talking directly to them, why they're not feeling seen. But back in the old days, people used to do mail shots and leaflets in papers and stuff, and they still do that now, which is great, but it's more targeted. And that was a very much a scattergun approach back in those days. But now, where you've got social media as well, it's such a great opportunity, especially with ads and stuff, where you can really, really target your content to that niche that you want to talk to. So it's just a great time, really. Great
No,
time
and
to try and reach your customers.
I love the way that you've put together the the agitate solution, because a lot of people don't even know they've got a problem until they read this, do they?
Exactly. And something that I used to find a lot when I was a VA is somebody would book an intro call because they were absolutely totally overwhelmed, but they didn't actually know what their problem was. So it was just, they would literally sit there and talk at you for half an hour, and then they'd say, oh, I feel so much better. I feel like you, even without doing anything, I feel better for just getting that off my chest. We would talk through their problems and their pain points, and well, we could do this or we could do that. And then you'd go away and put that proposal together. And 9 times out of 10, that would be your ideal customer. They don't know what they want. So after a while, you kind of figure out how to talk to those people on socials, through your website, through your newsletters, and get that interest back, because then this is why I say, don't be afraid to ask your customers why they chose you over a competitor, or what made you come to me, because this is all stuff. 80% of marketing is pretty much it's iterative. It's doing what you've done, finding what works, and redoing that in slightly different ways. So it works.
And would you say
Definitely.
that you would use this in all forms? So you've spoken a lot about social media, but would you also use the same in newsletters and across all forms of communication with potential partners?
Definitely. I mean, I do a lot of storytelling in my newsletters. I make them quite personal because that's what people have come to expect from me. And I know not everybody wants to do that. But as I've already said, showing a bit of personality and a bit of commonality with your target customer goes a long way. So, yeah, I guess a lot of this probably is geared more towards socials, but then that's usually when people come to me and say, well, I don't really know what you mean by storytelling, or I don't really know how I can talk to those customers and pull them in. Web copy is the same though. If someone lands on your website, you've literally got 8 to 10 seconds to try and pull them in. So I think straight away, if you're saying, I understand the problem that you're having and this is how I'm going to solve it for you, yeah, you're going to make a sale, because that's what they're asking for. That's why they've come to you. So I'm babbling now, but
No, that's fine. Thank you.
is that okay? Is that
Yes,
what
yeah,
you're, yeah,
definitely. I mean, I,
okay,
I,
cool.
I think it's great that, smaller businesses have got the same opportunity as big ones now. And it is a shame, I suppose, that many of them aren't taking advantage of that. But at least it's there for them, whereas before the opportunity just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be a small business owner, really, because you have all these tools at your disposal. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think so.
And so many people, because back then as well, I don't think there was many people offering the service that you offer. So if you wanted someone to write something for you, you had to go to your sister or
Yeah,
who did better English at school.
the bloke down the pub.
Yeah, there wasn't the
Yeah,
availability that there is now. I mean, back
no,
when I first started business, I don't know if there were copywriters around. There probably were, but they were called journalists.
yeah. Well, I think there have always been kind of copywriters, but how that looks now is very different to how it might have looked 5, 10, 20 years ago. So, you know, anyone can write, everyone can write. And this, well, I will talk a bit about AI later on. But, you know, we're all capable of telling our story. And again, I have got a bit on that later. So I won't expand too much on that now. We'll come to that in a bit, but yeah.
Thank you.
So I've just got a bit of an example here, and I hope, oh, hang on, where's my, there it is. I hope you can read this because it's a little bit small. But basically, this is going to stop anyone scroll. If you don't know who Martin Kemp is, he's basically Roman Kemp's dad, the guy from The One Show and the DJ and all of that. He used to be in a band called Spandau Ballet in the 80s. I'm sure our audience are of an age where they know that. But he does a lot of 80s nights. He does a lot of DJing and all that sort of stuff. So I saw this on LinkedIn and I was like, whoa. And she's basically started and said, I spent the night with Martin Kemp. So immediately that's my scroll stopped, because I think Martin Kemp's a bit of a silver fox, to be fair. I quite fancy him. So I can't believe I just admitted that. But anyway, so she's gone, I spent the night with Martin Kemp. Yes, the one from Spandau Ballet. I was like, what? We danced, we drank, the sun was shining. It's quite descriptive. You know, she's setting that scene, big crowd, great atmosphere, everyone's soaking it up. So it's really emotive, kind of, you can almost feel that you're there in that party sort of atmosphere. DJing an 80s night, feel good tunes, lots of sing-alongs, people in a great mood. And then she starts to change it a bit. Something felt off. And then she says there was no personal connection, no spark, no real sense that the musical crowd meant anything to him. And by now I was like, whoa, really? This is Martin Kemp. What's going on here? So I really wanted to keep reading. Again, I'm interested in branding, you know, so when she puts no personal connection, no spark, I was like, oh, how is this going to end? So basically she kind of goes into, it's a reminder for any business, being known might get people through the door, all of that stuff. And then she goes on to say how she makes people feel in her business. Customers want to feel like they matter to you. Are you showing them that they do? I make it a priority. So she's basically reinforcing her values by using this example. And the little cutout down the bottom here, can you see that? I don't know. Somebody commented and said, there's nothing worse than a brand that shows up all gloss, no soul. Love the reminder that it's not about being seen, it's about being felt. Again, it comes back to feelings every time. So people won't really remember what you said to them, and everybody says this, but it's true. People will remember how you made them feel. And that is basically the whole premise behind this whole talk today. It's how you're making people feel with your storytelling to have that ultimate result of buying from you. But I think this is a great example because it just, for me, it was like, whoa, I'm going to stop and read this. So that's the first example that I have. The second example, and I did have some more, but I cut it out because I was like, it was ridiculously long. But this just made me chuckle. Again, it stopped me from scrolling. And if a good way to draw your reader in is by using sarcasm sparingly and humour. The example here basically rips all of the 5 figures in 5 minutes brigade. You'll have seen them, you know, on LinkedIn, the girl boss badasses who all make outrageous claims. I can make you £1 million in 5 days type of people, but they don't actually have a solid business. We've all seen them. And there is a lady on LinkedIn called Sabrina Shavans Denman who has a No BS Wednesday. Every week, has a brilliant post. She's so good. She calls out all of these fake gurus all of the time. But this guy is not a fake guru. He's just taking the mickey out of all of those that are. So you can read it there. I'm not going to read it out to you, but it just made me laugh out loud. I belly laughed when I read it because I when it said I walked into the posh cafe in town and ordered a flat white, I thought, oh, here we go. It's going to be another one of those posts. And then I was just sat there laughing, and I was on a bus at the time when I saw it, and I was just like, this is brilliant. I love this. And it got really, really good traction. And we're not just talking likes and, you know, humour, lol reactions, but basically people were commenting, and the amount of impressions that he must have got from that, it would have been absolutely off the scale. So yeah, he might have gone viral. And I know what I said about viral posts earlier, but it doesn't even really, tell you what he does or anything. But I just thought it was brilliant. So you don't always have to talk about your business or, stuff that means something. Sometimes a bit of humour is great, and that just gets you where you need to be. I just want to make a quick note about swearing, Linda, or using things like emojis, especially poo emojis and stuff like that. Now, from your session a couple of weeks ago, I know you mentioned that there are people out there who won't buy from somebody who uses swear words on their website or in their socials, or they're overly personal. That's absolutely fine, because the people who are repelled by your copy or by your marketing or by your story, they're not your tribe. They're not the ones you're talking to. So if you go to somebody's website and they have a paragraph peppered with swear words and that puts you off, move along. Their products and services are not aimed at you. You are not their target audience. So those people know who their target audience is, or are, and they're speaking directly and authentically to them. It's part of their story, it's part of their brand, and that means that their marketing is working for them. If you look at that and go, oh, I wouldn't work with that person, job done. You're not their target audience, so you've moved on. But meantime, someone else has gone there and gone, oh my god, so refreshing to see whatever. They're going to work with them because it's their tribe, as it were. So that's great. That's marketing in action, really. I always make quite long posts on LinkedIn. I favour longer posts, but you do what you want. I could have told most of the stories that I put out on LinkedIn in half the words, but I like to write it the way I would tell it in person, because that's what I do. That's how I market to my target audience. It reflects who you really are, going back to that again. So let's have a quick chat about AI. There are a couple of things I want to say actually about social reach versus impressions and engagement as well, and I've already touched on it. So likes are great, open rates are good, but unless you're getting the impressions, clicks and comments, and unless you're getting that traffic through your website with low bounce rates and all of that, people aren't really seeing your content. They'll skim it, but they're not seeing it. And likewise, they're not feeling seen by you. That's not going to give you return on investment. You'll raise awareness, but it's not going to pay your bills at the end of the day. To truly convert your content into sales, and let's face it, as we've said, that's what most of us are probably here for. You have to make people feel seen, and you need to make them feel like you're talking directly to them and understand the pain of the issues that they have. I can't reiterate that enough. And remember that you can't talk to everyone, or you end up selling to no one, basically. So if we just talk quickly about AI, I have no problem with AI. I use ChatGPT and Gemini to come up with ideas for research, for analysis, and for copy revisions. I'm not here to demonize AI or technology at all, but what I don't do, and I wouldn't advocate anybody to do, is to post anything to any of their platforms or their website or that of their clients, if that's what they do for a living, that's come straight from AI. So AI generated content is getting better as people learn to prompt properly and refine. You can still tell at the moment most AI content a mile off, and personally, I don't think it inspires great trust. You might have different opinions, and again, it's all, at the end of the day, up to yourself, up to you whether you want to use it, what you think about it. But you all have a story. You should all know your audience and the problems that you're trying to solve for them. And if you don't, I would hope that after this, you'll go away and sit down and look at your customer personas and do your marketing plan and all of that. Nobody sounds quite like you, because you're a unique human being and business owner, and you really are the best person to tell your story. If you really don't want to do your own copy and content, then please hire an experienced person who can spend time with you and your business and at least pick up on your tone of voice and the nuances within it. Much better, much better. So that's pretty much me done. Thanks for listening. If anyone's got any questions,
No, what I would like to ask is, the slides that you shared. I mean, obviously they're going to be available through YouTube and the other channels, LinkedIn and Facebook, and on our website. But I didn't know if you have any sort of thing that you can people can email you and you can share the agitate and share
Of
those
course.
words.
Yep.
Maybe that. I think the other thing is the power words. I think would be really handy for people if they
Yeah, of course.
email you and asked you. That would be
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. And I'd love to connect with anybody here today on LinkedIn. If we're not already connected, you can scan the barcode there, go straight to my profile, even just drop me a message there and I'll send you something over. And if you want to subscribe to our newsletter so you can see how I do storytelling, you can scan the barcode there.
That's
And
fantastic.
yeah,
Thank you so much, Vikkie. And it looks like you might be the person next week as well helping us, which would be fantastic, because we were talking before the presentation about PR, and I think PR absolutely vital for businesses, particularly new ones, don't you?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
And
Yeah,
that, I think, to some people is more scary than social media. You know, if they're in a newspaper article, it's like, I'm in the newspaper.
It's that thing of putting yourself out there, isn't it? I think a lot of people are afraid to show who they really are, whether that's a fear of being seen, whether it's the fear of whether it's imposter syndrome holding them back. There are many reasons why people don't shout about their businesses and their successes. But I think it's really important to do that because people want to see your success. They want to see how you work. So yeah, it's really important to promote yourself and get your business out in front of people, because otherwise, who's going to find you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
So we've just got some thank yous from Michelle here. Michelle's counselling and training. I said to you she was going to be coming on. Chris Henry said no questions, but thanks a lot for the talk. I think you're on spot regarding feeling over just seeing. And Phil Teaston said thanks very much for the information. Very interesting. So that's good. So they're the people that have commented so far. I know we had a lot more people booked in, so I think you'll be hearing from them in future, Vikkie. And I'm really looking forward to next week's one on public relations, because I think that's another really scary topic. So so fantastic. Thank you so much and
Okay.
well done.
Thank you. Thanks
All
for
right,
having me.
thanks everyone. All right, see you. Bye bye.